Hello, YouTube, and to those in the chat and those watching the VOD, it is once again your esteemed host, Shintigercurl, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another session of Shintigercurl streaming. I was going to do it on Tuesday, but of course, inclement weather here in the great city of Houston, Texas, prevented me from doing so. And I didn't want the power to go out while I was in the middle of streaming, so I decided to reschedule here. So today's the day. It's time to close the book on my first book as we finish out what's left of the story and begin to set up for the next of the mainline books, which I have not finished writing yet. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So, with that out of the way, first and foremost, you know what we gotta do. It's time to get out your guns, lock and load, because it's time to shoot the shit. And we're going to start with a bit of a downer. Going to be a quick rescrio in pace to two people. One a YouTuber, one a basketball player. The basketball player to be mentioned is the one, the only, the legendary Jerry West. A former member of the a Hall of Famer and former member of the vaunted Los Angeles Lakers, who are absolute crap now. Now, the reason why he's such a legend, well, he's the logo. That's right, Jerry West is the logo for the National Basketball Association. Goes without saying, the guy was a phenomenal talent. There's a reason why he is the logo of the league. He was a bit before my time, but it was still, it's still, the guy's impact on the game cannot be dismeasured. So yeah, Mr. Logo himself, Jerry West. Let's go in Pache. And the second one, Devil already knows this because I mentioned it in the CBR community forum. But the YouTube comic book community lost a giant. Well, I want to say the giant. As it was revealed a couple of days ago by his wife, Nicole, that Ben Potter, aka Comic Storian, tragically passed away couple of days ago in what she called a unfortunate accident. The details of the accident and his death and the nature of it all is unknown at this time, but needless to say, the impact he left on the comic book YouTube community I wasn't sub to him, but I was a big fan of his. Like, if it wasn't for him talking about House of X in such a positive manner, I would not have gotten into it. And I'm grateful to him because I didn't even know House of X was even a thing going forward. I didn't even know that Jonathan Hickman was going to be writing it, and he talked about it, and I'm like, I need to get at this series. I need to get at this shit right now. But yeah, Comic Historian is just one of those guys that you just love to hear talk. Like, people say I have a great speaking voice. Ben had an amazing speaking voice, and everyone loved hearing his stuff. And I only found out because my friend Dante posted the community comment that his wife left on his community page, and we're feeling it. Like, guys, like, I didn't even know him and Comics Explained were even friends. I'm like, wow, those two were friends. And you could see when he did his own video that he was broken up about it. He barely could keep the tears going. Comic Drake, Comic Tropes, Casual Comics, a lot of YouTubers who talk about and discuss comic books in the modern media or anything else talk highly of Ben, and that just goes to show you the impact he had on comic book YouTube as a whole, and his death will leave a void that will never be filled. So he may have been taken from us far too early, but I'm glad we had him. So, Rescue and Pache, Comic Historian, you are missed and beloved. Also, in wrestling news, just received word that if you haven't heard by now, yeah, that's true, Devil. You know the people who have the passion for it. But in other news, it has been reported, it's been reported, and now it's pretty much confirmed that Ricochet will be leaving the WWE once his contract comes up in the summer. He has already been written off TV after a vile attack from now heelish Braun Breaker. Ricochet has been with the company for about 8 years. He was with the black and gold brand of NXT, the golden age of NXT, and that was some great days. And he has accomplished he hasn't accomplished nearly as much as he really should have, and that just opens the door. This is what I like about modern wrestling, is that he has places he can go. There's a multitude of places he can go. Obvious choice would be going to AEW and reigniting with a feud with an old friend of his from over 10 years ago, namely the Billy Goat Will Ospreay. Remember that over nearly 10 years ago, those two tore it up in the Best of the Super Juniors and had a match that was being talked about around the world. It blew up. I could see him going to TNA, be a part of that X division, and it's gonna be, I could see him really shining and giving the X division something to do. He could go to New Japan. New Japan is always welcome. He was always felt at home in New Japan, and he'd be welcomed either in the junior heavyweight division, or he could just go up to the heavyweight division. He has that talent with him, so there's that. Still, there's much for him to do. Let's see, in AEW news, let's see, it seems that the New Elite, riding high on their recent slew of victories and putting people on the shelf, most notably Dax Harwood, has said that he will be out indefinitely. I'm not sure if this is a kayfabe or a shoot, but yeah, that means the AEW is gonna be bereft of perhaps its greatest tag team for a good long while, perhaps even ever, and I don't want to think about that. So they decided that they were going to challenge. They said they were going to challenge pretty much 5 of the best of AEW against them, or not 5. No, it's 4. I'm sorry, I'm getting that wrong. And they're going to be challenged in blood and guts. Yep. Who's gonna face off in Blood and Guts? Blood and Guts is next month. We don't know, but we'll find out. But there's been no question about a bunch of people lining up to face them. Jack Perry defeats the man, the myth, the legend, the natural Dustin Rhodes to advance to the ladder match for the vacant TNT title. Excellent match done by Jack Perry. I really love heel Jack Perry. I love heel Okada too. He just keeps making me laugh. El Toro Blanco, Roosh, and MJF had an amazing pull-apart brawl after his match and just beat the ever-loving shit out of each other. We had an absolutely epic trios match as the Sussex County Chicken and current ROH World Champion Mark Briscoe teamed with freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly to take on the team of that Pillock Roddy Strong, teaming up with the Don Callis family's own Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita. It was a fantastic trios match with the Don Callis family coming over and Willow Nightingale getting Pearl Harbored by the now heelish Chris Statlander and her manager Stokely Hathaway. Let's see. Still some more setup for Forbidden Door, as a new match was now been signed, as the current IWGP World Champion Mr. Jon Moxley will defend his title. Will be defending his title against none other than the Stardust Genius himself, the Los Ingobernables one himself, Tetsuya Naito. And hello, Brother Ball. Thank you for being here for this final stream for the book. And the main event, Will Ospreay versus Rey Fenix, international title on the line. I only need to say that once. You already know the match was a banger. And that final scene with that final segment with Swerve, chef's kiss. Excellent. Next week, for the first time ever, El Toro Blanco Roosh will take on the new and improved MJF in his first match since his return at All In, as they will face off one-on-one at the start of the show. No commercial breaks, so you know it's gonna be a damn good one. So there's that. Also, Summer Games Fest was this week, I was watching it alongside Mr. Maximilian Dude, and there was some killer games up for grabs. One of the ones I'm looking forward to, we just got a sneak preview of who is going to be in the next season of DLC for Street Fighter 6, and we're getting two that brings up some very interesting questions. Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui from the Fatal Fury slash King of Fighters franchise. That's right, we got some SNK fighters gonna be coming to the world of Street Fighter again. This has been over 15 years since we had any kind of proper crossover between SNK and Capcom. And I'm not talking about Smash Brothers. It's a completely different thing. This is a completely different thing, and I hope to God this leads to a release or a remaster or a collection release of the CVS games, because those games are so damn good. So damn good. I still say CVS 2, one of the best fighting games of all time. I had it on GameCube, SNK Capcom versus SNK 2 EO edition, which was easy operation. It's basically you use the C stick to perform special moves. That was the first and only time in my entire career as gaming that I was able to consistently pull off raging demons. So there's that. Also, in other news, more Sonic coming out this fall, as they are re-releasing one of the greatest Sonic games of all time, Sonic Generations, coming from modern consoles, but this time you'll be able to play as Shadow in several stages. So they call it Sonic Shadow Generations. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. It's going to be delicious. Let's see. And also, I can't believe I've got those other two. Yep. This the starting of season 2, coming out in a couple of weeks. None other than the return of the former dictator, M. Bison. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt about what's going on with this particular version of M. Bison. Some say he's a failed clone. Others say because of his attire that he has taken over the body of one Sagat. Some say he wasn't perma-killed by Ryu, but we don't know. And following up for this second season will be none other than the tallest, leggiest, nicest, and most sexiest Street Fighter of them all, Elena. Yeah, we're talking about a woman so nice and so pleasant that even Akuma, friggin' Kuma, likes her. Yeah, if you can get on the good side of Akuma, you know you're doing something right. So yeah, once again, Street Fighter 6, kicking ass all day long. Let's see. Trying to figure out what else what else does I need to say? One Piece just dropped, chapter 1117, and we finally finished up with Dr. Vegapunk's announcement to the entire world. Saw a lot of old faces, but just before he was get to the tantalizing stuff, as he talked about the people with the initial D, the transmission was cut. Damn you, Oda. Damn you. Damn you. Yes, indeed. But before we get to the one more thing to talk about before we get to the important parts, the nitty gritty. I would say that for the future of his whole reading thing on YouTube, if you didn't catch it on my community page, on my other stream for streams going forward, I think I will delve into the topic that got my channel to over 1,300 subs. That of War Machine / Hordes. It is a tabletop game similar to the vein of Warhammer. And we're just going to be digging into the lore. I haven't played War Machine competitively in over a decade. But I'm going to be talking about the lore. Talking about the characters, the storylines, the various topics, the gods, goddesses, devils, and demons that make up the world of War Machine / Hordes, or Warmer Hordes if you want to get to it. And you guys will hopefully be here for it. And keep in mind, a lot of what I poured into to my book came from War Machine. I mean, yeah, from War Machine. So yeah, it's all from there. So we'll be digging into that. I'm not sure of the format just yet, but I think I have an idea about how I want to do this. I'm not sure how they're gonna go, how long they're gonna run. We will eventually get back into Smash League as soon as I finish building the Rage in the Cage. Still got to remember to do that. And yeah, I think that's about enough. Got 3 viewers. Devil, I know you're ready. Hairball, I know you're definitely ready. Hopefully Mike Shell is watching because he had some interesting theories about this particular one. But yeah, let's get to what you came here for. It's time to put an end. Tonight we'll be going 3 for 3. We'll be doing the last 2 chapters and the epilogue. All of it will be setting up for the next book. But just as a reminder, I won't be publishing the next book until I finish the 2 novellas that will make up the a sort of in-between section between this story, between this book and the next book. And I'll get into details about what those novellas are, but for that out of the way, now it's time. Sorry, a friend was talking to me. Time to get to New World again. Time to bring on the Dragon Ball voice. Last time on New World, Lucas went face to face and head to head with the orchestrator of the entire coup, Eric. The two had a close back and forth battle, but things took a turn for the worse as Eric injected himself with the Sparta serum and nearly killed him. If it wasn't for the clever ingenuity of Don and their teamwork, they wouldn't have been able to survive. But now they have they've prevented the coup, saved the royals. Now it's time to see the final epic conclusion to New World as we get to the last 3 chapters, starting with chapter 23, The Battle of Castle Dracula. Aftermath. That's the way, Rupert. You have to get the skin off. Lucas Kane's eyes fluttered open, partially blinded by the sun shining in the room. He felt terrible, his injuries nagging him as soon as he fully awakened. He took stock of his surroundings, the beautiful curtains and finely crafted furnishings. He was in a well-made bed, with a multicolored blanket covering his bandaged body. He assumed he was somewhere in the inner quarters, but he didn't know exactly where. Ah! He wakes! He turned to the side at the source of the voice. It was the Emperor himself. He stood over his bed, sporting that carefree smile he knew him for. We were getting a bit worried about you. We? He croaked out. The Emperor pointed to the other side of the bed. Sitting next to the bed was Dawn, sleeping with her head on a desk. She's been watching you over you since the battle ended. Insisted that she be here when you wake up. He shifted in his bed, testing out how well his body had healed up. He was stiff and achy, his muscles and joints telling him to stop moving. Lucas uncovered his arm. It was wrapped in a tight white bandage with the steady hum of the healing rig that was on top of the bandages. How long? 5 days, Emperor Dracula said. We had Dr. O come by and help patch you up. Said that you were healing rather fast, but given the seriousness of your injuries, well, considering who your parents are, I'm not too surprised. You didn't tell him, did you? Do I look like the type to say something like that? Right. He flexed his arm. There was still some soreness, but he felt that he was on the mend. When did you wake up? The ruler tossed out a bit of fruit to Rupert for Rupert to eat. Oh, a day after the battle ended. My son woke up 4 hours after me. Lucas managed to sit up in bed, albeit tenderly. How bad was it in all? Vlad's expression turned serious as he began to pace around the bed. The damage to the castle is great. It'll be years before it'll be back to somewhere near normal. He gave a solemn sigh. We lost a lot of good people. I figured, he said. What about the invaders? The Emperor answered. We captured about 70 pirates. The rest were killed during the battle. The House Bathory retainers have been very helpful to us. Most of them mostly to lessen their punishments for this mess. Hard to believe a noble house would stoop to this level. Right under our noses. Eric played this game to near perfection. Hard to believe he came up with all on his own. Did he? Lucas understood what he hinted at. So you think he wasn't acting alone either? He nodded. Based on what the retainers and your crew informed me of, there was another hand involved in this. I was promised. That's what Eric said before he died. Indeed, we were able to get a sample of his blood to analyze. And Vlad wandered over to the window and looked out at his ruined castle. Most of the serum had absorbed into his bloodstream, but we got enough to tell us what we needed to know. The serum itself was beyond anything we had ever seen. This wasn't something whipped up in a lab in a few days. It took years and the best equipment imaginable to make this. You have any other clues? I sent some shades to the Bathory estate, turned the place upside down. Aside from a few schematics of the castle, fake IDs, and documents for the pirates, we found nothing hinting at another party involved. But we did find a clue on their persons. Eric's cell phone contained a few messages from himself and his cousin Alfonso. There was one name that kept coming up in them often. The Architect. Architect? Yes. The way they spoke of him suggests that he was the one pushing this. Eric had the idea, but this Architect gave him the means to do so. I suspected as much. The things he was able to get done seemed beyond his means, even beyond the means of nobles to achieve. Who do you think it is? The Protectorate wouldn't do something like this. The Pope values this piece too much to mess it up with a nasty coup. Khan is out. The Dragon King doesn't care enough about the other nations for this kind of trickery. And the RUS neither have the will nor the skill to even attempt something like this of this level. No, it's someone else. Another group is out there. They have a lot of tech on their side, and they have their eyes on us for a long time. We survived this, but I fear a greater storm is coming. One I could hope we can weather. Lucas's word absorbed his words. He had this thought in his head even before he left Roswell. A third party. The Emperor merely confirmed what he already knew, and it scared him to think about it. His thoughts were interrupted by the low moans of the girl next to him. Dawn slowly awoke and sat up, stretching her arms as she did. Ah, said the Emperor. Our Sleeping Beauty awakens again. She rubbed her eyes and saw Lucas was wide awake and looking at her. Get enough rest? Luke! She smothered him in another sudden hug. You're awake! Yes, and I'm still healing, he groaned. Dawn jumped back from hearing this. I'm sorry. Lucas laughed a bit. It's all right. Just gotta stop hugging me without warning. Sorry, it's just... Glad to see you're up. Thanks. The Emperor clapped his hands together and gave one of his radiant smiles. Excellent, he said. Now that you're up and about, I assume you want to get something to eat. Upon hearing his words, Lucas began to feel some hunger pains in his sore gut. I could eat. Very good. The rest of your crew is waiting in the sitting room. I came in here to bring Dawn along, but now that you're among the living again, it makes things easier. He began to walk towards the door, trailed by Rupert when he turned at the pair. Well, help him out of bed, dear. He's still pretty hurt. Oh, I'm sorry, exclaimed Dawn as she jumped to her feet. Come on, Luke. Out of bed. Yes, ma'am, he joked. He inched his way to the edge of the bed and swung his legs from under the covers. His legs were still wrapped and very much stiff. Dawn pulled him out of bed and slung his arm over her shoulder. Acting as a crutch, she helped him walk along the room and finally began to follow the Emperor. Just as soon as they exited, they ran into the princess, flanked as always by her lone guardian. Akira was in his usual blue uniform, but covered in bandages. Ah, the hero of the hour roused from his sleep, said Elandra. Highness, he greeted. Akira, what the hell's happened to you? Occupational hazard, he answered simply. Really? You look like crap. Akira smirked a bit. Well, you don't look so hot yourself, Unc. Elandra then latched her arm onto his, causing his face to sour a bit. Oh, he's too modest. You should have seen him, Lucas. He fought so hard to protect me. What more could a girl want? She's been singing his praises for days now, added Don, talking non-stop about how he was so magnificent in the fight. Is that so? Lucas smirked at his nephew. Your dad's gonna flip out when he hears about this. The Lycan groaned in embarrassment. Not you too, Uncle Luke. I wouldn't be much of an uncle if I didn't bust your chops every once in a while. All present laughed at Lucas's joke, save for Akira, who just grumbled. So where's your brother? Getting reacquainted with Mai, Elandra answered. They had a lot of catching up to do. Lucas shook his head at the news. We were just on our way to the sitting room for some lunch. Want to join us, sweetie? Asked the Emperor. Sounds like wonderful, Daddy. Come along, puppy. Akira groaned something about brat under his breath as the party made their way to the room in question. The sitting room was circular in shape, with small vases and figurines on shelves on the walls. In the center of the room was a giant fireplace with small embers of what was once a roaring fire. There were a few Persephones and waiters in the room setting up for lunch. And sitting around the fireplace was Reese, Thorgan, Jinx, and Groose, talking amongst themselves about various topics. Groose would be the first to notice the party's arrival. Lucas! He bellowed as he leapt from his chair and bounded over to his injured leader. Kamata! I'm okay, Groose. Just woke up. You look all banged up, lad, said Thorgan as he and the others got up and gathered around him. You had us worried for a bit. Lucas gave his crew the once-over. They were all sporting their own wounds of war, some worse than others, but they all seemed faring very well. Looks like you guys saw some action as well. Well, not me, said Jinx. I plugged a few pirates who thought they could get one over on me. Crow was a worthy adversary, but nothing beyond my skills, Reese said, almost bragging. Well, as much as an elf can't sound like bragging. When I found you were bleating like a stuck pig hog, added Thorgan. Thorgan to Watesha es Reese, said Groose with a laugh. Lucas looked over his two friends and smirked. Really now? Do you two want to tell me anything? The elf and dwarf glared at the giant for what he had said. Nothing happened. For once nothing happened. But for once I agree with the she-devil. Nothing happened. The Emperor gave a hearty laugh at the sight before him, catching everyone off guard. Ah, such a lively bunch you are. I would love to have you all around simply for the entertainment. His joyful face lessened as he began to speak genuinely. Words cannot express my gratitude. I know this went beyond the limits of the original job I gave you, but I am grateful to you all. Not for you, I and my children would be dead and the Empire would be the hands of a warhawk. You saved our country, but most of all, you saved the lives of my children. Whatever I can pay you will not equal a tenth to my debt to you all. So for the time being, this is all I can offer you. The Emperor then kneels before the assembled group with a hand extended towards them. Thank you. Never in their wildest imaginations did they ever think that one day the Emperor would bow before them. It was a dream that they dared not hope to dream, but here it was, and thus they would remember it well. Thorgan broke the silence first. So, you still get paid, right? Oh, absurdly so, Vlad answered, returning vertical. Now, time for lunch. He was met with a chorus of agreements and cheers as the party began to find their seats, preparing to eat. The waiters set out some trays with some beautiful silverware and glasses in front of the chairs. Is that all, Highness? One of the waiters spoke. Quite. You may go. As commanded, Highness. No one noticed the lone waiter leaving the sitting room, since they were too busy talking amongst themselves about the battle. It was good for him that they didn't pay much mind. He walked out of the room and soon left the inner quarters altogether. He found a small alcove under a set of stairs that hid him from view. He checked the area. He was totally alone. This was a good time for him, since everyone was busy with repairs to the castle. Rolling up his sleeves, he revealed a small watch. He pressed the buttons on the side, and a hollow image appeared before him, a single static eye looking directly at him. A deep, distorted voice spoke. Report. This is Architect Voyle reporting. Location, Castle Dracula. Status. It is my sad duty to report that the Imperium stratagem has failed. What facilitated the failure? It seemed there was an unknown vector in the stratagem, a group of freelancers. Their interference was marginal at the beginning, but they were still able to tip the plan in their favor. And the batteries? All dead. The pirates are either captured or killed. Does anyone know of your involvement? Only the batteries, and I do not believe they told anyone else of me. And the royals? They yet live. This is most disconcerting. This will set back our plans most substantially. I am sorry. I take full responsibility for this. It's not your fault. Random vectors can happen in any stratagem. You gave them the plan. It is success or failure was on them. I see, sir. Do you wish for me to remain here and continue observation? Negative. The longer you remain, the greater chance you will be discovered. You return to your safe house, eliminate any and all evidence of your presence, and leave the Empire. Shall I return to the city? Negative. You will be rendezvousing with another architect in the Britons. The Britons? But that means... Yes. The failure of the Imperium stratagem necessitates a change to our other plans. It is time to begin the Vatican stratagem. Yes, sir. I shall leave immediately. When faith fails, logic prevails. The image died out after this exchange. No one saw the man leave out of one of the workships that came and went from the castle. His presence was not missed by anyone. The hotel room he stayed in was vacant within a day, with no one remembering who he was, where he came from, or where he went. If they had only knew how things would have changed, they had only inquired more about this unassuming young man. So ends that chapter. Yep, not a very long ones. Not a very, and yep, everybody's still alive. Everybody's still well. Yeah, that's right. And before you ask, yes, he is the architect. He's that guy, that random guy, that one guy is the one who got them to do this. I mean, what was the best place to do it when you're in the castle? So yeah. But that will be the first time you've seen him, but it will not be the last time you've heard of Architect Voyle. Who's he working for? What exactly is the stratagem that they have in mind? Oh, this conspiracy is going to be very, very big, especially in the next book, my friend. Yep. A little bit of water. Yeah, these last couple of chapters are gonna be just very short, so not gonna be a long ones. But first, do this so I know where the timestamps are going. And now it's time for the final chapter of the final official chapter of New World, and it's titled "What May Come." Castle Dracula under siege. That was the headline of every major newspaper and publication in the Empire from 2 weeks ago. Prince Vlad tried his best to keep the battle on the wraps, but something as big as a massive siege could not be swept under the rug like a bad case of gas. It's unknown who leaked it, but that was pointless now. The Empire found out that their leaders had come under attack from a traitorous noble house. House Bathory was thrown into utter chaos. Not only their entire leadership was killed in this incident, but this incident utterly ruined their reputation with the other houses. By early estimates, it would take centuries before they could even get to half of the influence they once had. As of right now, the relatives of Lord Bathory are trying to decide who will lead them and how to proceed in the future. But none of that really matters at this point. Why? Because our beloved crew just received their well-deserved payment for saving the Empire. Emperor Vlad wanted to give them a little bit more, but all Lucas wanted was his pay, and that the involvement of him and his crew be kept secret. He felt it would be if the world knew that they were the ones who saved the Empire, it might hinder their work. But he insisted on rewarding them beyond their pay. "I've never gotten a medal before," said Dawn as she looked down at the object in hand. It was a gold-ornated cross with a red jewel in the center. The Imperial sigil was emblazoned on the jewel. Especially one this pretty. That is the Bloody Cross, Don, answered Reese. It is the highest citation anyone can receive, military or civilian. You should feel proud. I know, but I don't think I deserve it. I mean, I didn't do as much as everyone else. Ah, nonsense, lass, spoke Thor. You did very well for someone not used to all the things you just saw. Besides, the way Luke tells it, he would have died if he hadn't jumped in. That's more than enough. You really think so? Of course, added Jinx. Don, the secret to why we're effective as a team is because one of us can do it alone. We cover each other's weaknesses and boast each other's strengths. You did what none of us could. You helped Luke when he needed it the most. So I don't think your contributions were as meager at all. Dawn was touched by the Fae's words and looked around. Looking around, she saw that the others mirrored her sentiments. She truly felt touched that they thought so highly of her. It was a feeling that she missed in this new era. Thanks, guys. No problem. Oh, that reminds me. Jinx reached into her desk and pulled out a set of checks. Your pay. Groose, Reese, and Thorgan each smiled as they were handed their checks and gazed at the massive amount. Thorgan smelled his like a good meal. Ah, nothing like getting paid for kicking lots of arse. This will certainly mean we don't have to work for a good long while, added Reese. Get-a-ta-matcha tikyacha, spoke Groose. Well, look at that. Groose actually using his money wisely, said Jinx. What does he normally spend it on? Don girl, there are some questions that need not be answered. She didn't inquire much too after this point. Here's yours, Don. Jinx handed another check. I get one too? Yep, you put in a lot of work. We made sure the Emperor gave you as much as the rest of us. She looked down at the amount. Is this a lot? Don got her with that amount you could buy yourself a nice place to live. She thought about his words, a place to live. She hadn't really thought about her life up until this point. Things had happened so fast between the time she woke up and now. She had to make a new life for herself, in such an outwardly bizarre new world. Where would she live? What would she do? How would she make a living for herself? Don, Dachamanumaka. He says, what will you do with your money? Asked Jinx. I'm not really sure. She looked out the window of the office, gazing at the New York skyline. Don't get me wrong, I'm a bit scared, but it's a lot I want to do. I want to see more of this world. I want to see just how much it's changed and what sights it has. But I guess for now, I should be focused on finding a job and a place to stay. Well, why not be a freelancer like us? Me? I don't think I could do... you think I could do something like that? Don't think less of yourself, Don Jackson. Don't think less of yourself, Don Jackson, spoke the elf. You've shown yourself to be able to think on your feet and have courage under fire. It's a good start for any good freelancer. Aye, you just need to apply for the license, which means taking the freelancer exam. But with us helping, it'll be a breeze. You guys, you're gonna spoil me. Human netachata. He says you deserve to be spoiled. Then I'm in your care. She gave a polite bow to her friends. Now we'll have to wait for Luke to come back and we can think about how to spend this money, said Thorgan. Lucas Kane hated public transportation. Completely and utterly hated it. He sat at the bus stop, waiting for his transfer to arrive so he could get on his way back to the office. His beloved DeLorean was still under repairs due to the freeway chase a few weeks back. He sighed as he looked down at the small bag next to him. It was some leaf cakes from a bakery he liked to visit from time to time on the South Shore. It was normally a 15-minute drive, but by bus it was more than double that. And he wanted his crew to have some good food on the day they got their pay. He considered borrowing one of the crew's vehicles, but shot that down. Thor's van was such a mess to drive that he didn't even consider driving it. He didn't know how to ride a motorcycle, so that was out, and Jinx's scooter wouldn't make the trip. So he was stuck taking the bus. And here is where things get interesting. Why? Because I'm supposed to show up here. Yes. Right here. At this point in time, I'm due to appear before him. So I must now step out of the shadows of obscurity so that I may properly interact with him. I close my umbrella and I take a seat next to him. He hadn't noticed me yet, so I decide to speak up. Lovely day, wouldn't you agree? He snorted. Depends on your idea of lovely. Well, I like to look on the brighter side of things. Sorry. I'm in sort of a bad mood. I just don't care much for taking the bus. Then why do you? Car's in the shop. Got no choice, Lucas said. I see. That was one wild chase you went on. Yeah, it was. How the hells do you know that? Because I saw it. But that's He paused as he finally looked at me in the eyes. There was a flash of caution mixed with surprise. I could see his mind trying to process me and my appearance before him. Such reactions are worth revealing myself to others, always so very different. It's you, isn't it? Depends, I answered. Who do you think I am? Can't really say. I mean, I've heard the stories about you. All the myths, the legends. Not even sure what's real or not. Interesting. I checked my pocket watch. I have a bit of time. I think I can answer a few questions. Well, answer them as best I can. Lucas settled in a bit. His mind was abuzz with thoughts and potential inquiries about me. It was rather exciting for me as well. Finally, he began. So, who are you exactly? Do you even have a name? Yes, but I think I forgot it. Yes. No? Maybe? No. Yes, I've forgotten it. How do you forget your name? Well, when you've lived as long as I have, you forget the little things. The name is usually the first to go. Uh-huh, he said, not sure how to accept my answer. Are you human? I think so. I mean, I look human, and I sound human, so I must be human. Yet I'm not. Are you a god? I let out a hard laugh. No. I'm not a god. I've met gods before. Old gods, new gods, fat gods, slim gods. Gods you've heard of and gods you didn't think would even be gods. Like cats. Cats have several gods. Very interesting pantheon the cats have. Interesting. So, okay, so you're not a god, so what are you exactly? Interesting. Never really thought of it much. For now, you can just call me an anomaly. A quirk of space and time. That's certainly what not what most people call you. The most common name I see get tossed around lately is the Stranger. 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 I approve. Stranger am I. Okay, so... Stranger. Why are you here? Oh, that's an easy one. Because I'm supposed to be here. Right here, right now, talking to you. So you've been watching me? No. Well, yes. Maybe no. I mean, it's nothing so creepy. It's rather hard to explain. Try me. Okay. Let's see. How do I explain this? Okay. Imagine you are trapped in a library. The largest library in the entire world. You can't get out. No one knows you're there. You have plenty of food to eat and to drink. So what do? Well, if I'm safe and secure, I'd start reading. Exactly. You see, I'm not immortal exactly. I'm sort of unstuck in space and time. I don't age because time doesn't affect me. And so, as such, I need to keep myself occupied. So I read lives. I read a person from their birth to their death and everything else in between. I've done it quite a lot, and it's never boring. And now I'm reading you. Well, I'm certainly flattered that someone like you takes an interest in someone like me. So, how am I so far? Very exciting read so far, but I'm still not done. Much more to read with you, my friend. Glad I could make your day. Indeed you have. I looked down at my pocket watch again. Oh my, it seems our time has come to an end, sadly. It was certainly entertaining talking with you. I rose to my feet and took out my umbrella. Wait, I still got questions. Ah, so sorry, my friend, but this is where we must part. Can you at least tell me what's in store for me? He asked. Sorry. Spoilers. Huh. Understandable. I opened my umbrella before giving him some nice parting words. But I can say this to you. You are in for some interesting times, Lucas Kane. More interesting than you would care to like. Be prepared for it. And with that, I popped out of his life, leaving behind the most pleasant and most pleased and a surprised look on his face. Just a few minutes later, his bus arrived. I would assume our talk improved his mood, for as he boarded, he sported a small smile to himself. Lucas Kane returned to the office, a bit more of spring in his step. He entered and was greeted by his crew rather warmly. Got the cakes, guys! He held up the bag and set it down on the meeting table. You seem to be in a better mood, Luke, said Jinx. You're normally a frowny mess after taking the bus. It's a long story. Let's just say I got to talk to someone very interesting. So, did I miss anything? Oh, aye. Our dear little Dawn has decided she wants to be a freelancer like us, answered Thor. He arched an eyebrow to the girl in question. Really, now? Yep. Seems like something I'd be good at, she answered. It's hard work, but I think you can pull it off. Of course, we're going to help you with the exams and such. That goes without question, Lucas Kane, said Reese. Oh, and another thing, Dawn spoke. Thanks for giving me part of the payment. You put in the work, you get the pay. Simple as that. But I have another problem. Find a place to live near here. Lucas stared at her for a while, thinking about what he could say that would be close enough for her to be trained by them. When he decided that what he decided to do was a big change for the both of them, but he figured she needed something like that in her life. Okay, how about this? Just until you pass the exams and get your license, you can stay with me. The room went deadly silent. Outside of Dawn, they all knew that Lucas was not one for just letting anyone stay at his place. He valued his space, and very rarely did he allow anyone to spend the night in his apartment. But here he was, offering to put Dawn up in his place. It was very surprising for them. Surprising, and a bit provocative. Really? Dawn's eyes seemed to turn a lighter shade of blue now that she had a place to stay, and with a friend at that. She went for one of her surprise hugs, but Lucas cut her off before she could latch onto him. What did I say? Oh, sorry. Force of habit, she giggled before extending her hand to him. Thank you. He smiled as he gave her a handshake. Now, this is just temporary until you pass the exams, and you will have to carry your own weight. No lazying about and all. Of course. Good. The conversation was cut short by the loud munching of Groose, who had decided to sneak into the treats before everyone else. Get your hairy hands off the cakes, you bastard! Roared Thorgan. Dooga! Oh, don't try that line with us, mister, chastised Jinx. You must share, Groose, added Reese. I'm not going back there and buying more, yelled Lucas. Dawn laughed at how they all bickered with each other about the cakes. She was grateful to have whatever gods had existed that she found such a lively and loyal group of friends such as these in this new world. Well, we better get over there before there's none left, she said. You said it. Just then his cell rang in his pocket. He retrieved it and saw the familiar number of his mother. Oops. It's Mom. Gotta take this. Go ahead, I'll save you some. Thanks. He answered the cell. Hey, Mom. Hi, hon. You doing okay? Yeah, sorry I didn't call sooner. Been busy the last few weeks. I heard. What's this about some kind of attack on the castle? Can't really say. Job stuff, you know. Say no more. Is everything all right? Yeah, why you ask? It's just... You sound happier. Really? I don't sound any different. A mother knows her son. So, did anything happen to you to change that? Well... He subconsciously glanced at Dawn, her face covered in sugar from the leaf cakes and laughing at the jokes Thorgan was telling. I did sort of get a roommate. Get a roommate. You? A roommate? Who are you and what have you done with my son? It's true. She doesn't have anywhere to stay for now, so just being nice. Oh, it's a girl. I see. It's not like that, Mom. Of course it isn't. Well, I want to meet this roommate of yours one day. See if she's a nice girl. Not gonna happen anytime soon. There was a beep that interrupted their conversation. Another call. He looked at the ID. That's Shin. Probably worried about me with all this crazy stuff that happened and that's gone down. Fair enough. Give him and the others my love. I will, Mom. Love you. Love you too, Luke. He switched over to the line and greeted his older brother. Hey, bro! How's it going? Dawn was the first to notice. It was easy for her because she kept an eye on him during the conversation with his mother. She was just curious of what kind of person she was. But the curiosity was replaced with worry. Soon the others quieted down when they saw what she saw. Lucas's face went pale, white as a ghost's. A cold bead of sweat rolled down his face, and his face seemed frozen in dismay, as if someone had just walked over his grave. What did you just say? And that's it for the story proper. The final chapter of New World with some very interesting developments. Don will be living with Luke for a while. And you can hear a ship sailing in the background, but that's just me. And he's in for some interesting times. Sorry, a little something stuck in my throat. But yeah. Yeah, his mother is very proud of him. And I won't spoil too much. So there's that. But yeah, as for the contents of that phone call, I'll leave you to discover that in the next book. Or at least one of them. You'll know what that phone call was about. I won't say what it's about. I don't say what the contents of it, but it was just that. But still, we are finished with the book proper. We still have one more thing to take care of before we close the book and do a quick donut break. Because it's time for the epilogue. And I know Mike Shell knows what's happening because he has my book and has read it cover to cover. I know my nephew knows what's coming because he has read it no less than 5 different times. But now it's time for the epilogue. And a revelation that you can expect it. So hang in there for the last little bit. The epilogue. This wasn't supposed to be his shift tonight. He had plans, lots of plans. Plans to take his girlfriend to the local wrestling event, and after that, a nice dinner at a nice restaurant. But nope, not tonight. Bill pulled on his prison uniform and checked all of his weapons to make sure they were clean and functional. He was only here because his co-worker, a vampire named Craig, had come down with the flu. So he was forced to do the work his shift tonight. Bill welcomed the extra Drax, but it was hard telling his girlfriend that he had to work. He had to buy her something nice to smooth things over. Normally, he'd just be on night watch, patrolling the grounds and making bet checks on the inmates, but not tonight. Tonight, the warden called him up for something. There was an urgency in his voice that he hadn't heard before. All he said was, "Suit up," and he was to meet him at the landing pad outside and tell no one. He sprinted outside and joined the other guards. The night was cold and chilly. The drizzling rain didn't make it any much better. He hoped whatever the secret drill was, it would be over quick. He lined up with the others in 2 lines of 5. Before them stood Bartholomew Hax, warden of Alcatraz. The Lycan stood before the assembled guards and spoke. "Gentlemen, you are probably wondering why I called you out here in the middle of the night for a drill, but I will tell you right now, this is no drill. That was just a pretext for what's about to happen. Now, what I'm about to tell you is strictly off the record. You will not divulge what you see or hear in the next few hours. You were never here. You did not see anything. You did not hear anything. You will tell no one about this. Not the other guards, not your friends, not your family, no one. And if you do, you will not only be fired on the spot, you will face a slew of charges that could make you a permanent resident of this facility. Am I understood? Yes, Warden! Good. And just in time, too, our guest has arrived. From out of the darkness in the night flew a jet-black hovercopter. It circled the island a few times before making a final approach to the pad. The wind of its engines made the cold night even colder, so much so that Bill fought to keep his teeth from chattering. As it landed, he noticed that the copter was lacking any sort of markings or signs. It made it seem all the more ominous and unnerving, but he still did his duty, so he said nothing. The back of the copter opened up with a sliding ramp coming out and touching the ground. From inside emerged a giant lichen in a dark blue uniform. He made eye contact with the warden, who gave him a respectful salute. He returned the gesture. After returning the gesture, he scanned the area, momentarily locking eyes with Bill. He could feel the deadliness of this person. He dared not move or say anything that would get on the bad side of this guy. He gestured for the inside the copter. A moment later, a hooded figure exited the craft and approached the warden. Slowly, he pulled his hood down to reveal himself to the warden and the assembled guards. Immediately, Bill understood the need for all the secrecy. He knew he had to never tell anyone about this because the punishment was something he didn't want to face. He and the other guards dropped to their knees before the visitor. "Welcome to Alcatraz, my emperor," Warden Hax greeted. "Ah! Thank you for such a warm welcome, Warden," he said, giving him that charming smile of his. Hax and his guard returned to his feet. "This way, sir." Hax led the Emperor and his guardian through the two lines of guards, who then filed in behind them. The procession moved into the relatively warmth of the prison, passing through gate after gate. The normally busy hallways were totally devoid of any other prison personnel, under the warden's orders, no doubt. "I see you've done some remodeling," commented the Emperor. "Yes, we had some pipes burst on us a few 4 years ago. Made a total mess of things." Sounds dreadful. It was, but it was also needed for other reasons. Soon the group arrived at one of the many elevators on the first floor of the prison. They were all able to fit into it with room to spare. Hax pressed the sequence on the button pad, and a small hatch opened up. He pulled out a set of keys from his pocket and inserted one of them into the keyhole from the latch. As he turned it, the car began to descend down below the top floor of the prison. "We added a few new levels to the facility since the remodel," explained the warden. 6 new ones in total. The lower ones are for the most violent and dangerous inmates. "Good to see you're using your budget wisely, sir." "Thank you, sire." "And which level is he on?" "The bottom one, sir. In fact, he's the only one on that floor." "The only one?" "Correct, sire. In fact, that bottom floor was built specifically for him, for safety reasons." The Emperor pondered this fact. Didn't think he'd need protecting. Warden Hax shook his head. "No, sir. It's not for his safety, it's for everyone else. The other inmates are scared of him." "That bad?" 5 years ago, when he was still in Gen Pop, he ran into the Lycan Brotherhood, the biggest prison gang on the West Coast. Don't know the details of how or why the beef started, but they approached him in the showers. 20 of the most hardcore killers this prison had ever seen against this one guy. What happened after that? Don't know the specifics, sire, but by the time the guards got there, it was a mess. Blood and guts everywhere. Only 3 of them survived, if you can call what he did to them surviving. Bill had to keep himself from panicking. He knew this story. All the guards knew the story. The Shower Room Massacre, one of the worst incidents of prison violence in the history of Alcatraz, and everyone knew who was behind it. He prayed to the makers that he could stay on the elevator. He didn't want to be anywhere near that monster. Finally, the car came to a stop. As the doors opened, the warden turned to his guards and said, "You men stay here." "Sir," they called out, much to Bill's relief. Only the warden, the Emperor, and his guardian exited the car. They entered a long gray hallway, guards in tactical gear and rifles at the ready, lining either side. Very impressive security. "We need it, sire." This floor has everything he needs. Kitchen for meals, exercise gym, a small library for reading, fully staffed medical facility. It's also garrisoned with over 200 guards at all times. We can't take any risk of him escaping. Perfectly understandable. Well, he is one of the most dangerous people in the entirety of the Empire. After passing through the two massive steel doors, the trio stood before a large open area. In the center of it was a giant gray cube, about 20 feet high and wide. Is that it? Yes, sire, he answered. The cube is temperature controlled and can only be opened from the outside. Good. I would like to speak with him alone. Warden Hack's shock was evident. Sire? I need to speak to him alone. This is a personal matter. Sire, you know how dangerous he is. If he got out, especially you... Emperor Vlad waved off his concerns. I'm aware of his skills, but he will not hurt me, I'm certain of it. But sire, I could make this an order, Warden. Hax knew well enough that he could do so. The only reason he wasn't ordered him was due to the immense amount of respect he had for the Warden and his job. He didn't want to be ordered by him and lose that respect. Very well, Highness. Thank you, Warden. He motioned for the cube to be opened by the controllers who were watching the scene from inside the control booth somewhere on the floor. Good luck, Highness. His reasoning, he gave him a reassuring nod before making the short walk towards the cube. The doors hissed as they slid open and allowed the Lord of Vampires inside. He was met with the sight of a medium-sized cell with electrified bars that glowed a dull white to signal that they were live. Inside of it, on a single cot, was a human. He sat on the bed, arms crossed and waiting. His hair was a messy silver color that grew down his back. It was matched by a bushy beard of the same hue. He was very muscular, his frame hidden by the orange prison jumpsuit. As the Emperor approached, the prisoner gave a rueful laugh. Well, well, well. If it isn't the prince. Oh, I'm sorry. You're Emperor now, aren't you? A pleasure to see you again, Silva. He said. You're not locked up in here. I'm sorry about that. I don't much care. Nothing out there worth my time anyway, Silva said. I could get you back into Gym Pop. Ha! And be around those weaklings. I'd sooner die of boredom. Still loving combat, I see. Fighting's the only thing I'm good at. And there isn't anyone on this damn place that could give me a good fight. I haven't had a good one since the war. And what a fight it was. People still talk about that duel. It's the stuff of legends, the Emperor recalled. Who cares about legends? He gave a tired sigh. So why are you here, Prince? Here to brag about his surviving that little scrap? The Emperor arched an eyebrow. You heard about that? Silver picked his ear. The guards told me about it. But the only thing they talked about for days. Not to brag, really. I figured you'd want to know the details. He snorted and laid back on his cot, his back to Vlad. Such an act of disrespect would have resulted in him being beaten or at the very most killed, but Vlad merely smiled at his actions. Now, why would I want to hear about you getting saved by your soldiers or your lapdogs? Because I wasn't. That was for the press. The real heroes were a group of freelancers. Yeah. Silva scratched his ass. One of them you would be interested in. Doubtful. Oh, you would be. Because the leader of this group is part of the reason why you're in this cell in the first place. The human's head tilted upwards. His interest peaked. What is his name? Kane. Lucas Kane. The prisoner's laugh was like a rumbling volcano that finally had the strength to erupt. He sat up, crying with laughter as he faced his visitor with a manic smile. That's more like it. I'd figured you'd want to know. Yes, indeed I do. He absentmindedly ran a hand through his long mane. Okay, Prince, you got my attention. So tell me, what's that son of mine been up to? Yep, you heard right. That guy, there's no even point in hiding anymore. That guy, the man called Silva, one of the most dangerous men and humans in the Empire, is Lucas's father. I just want to hear your reaction, Devil. What do you think? Waiting for you, Devil. Yes, he is. The guy is human, and he. Not to mention, he does give off some Yujiro Hanma vibes. I wasn't going for that, but I can see what it is. I can see it. Yeah. Just waiting for the chat to catch up because I want to hear this. I want to see Devil's reaction. I don't know. You mentioned Baki. By the way, I did see Kengan Ashura versus Baki. It's good. It's so good. But yeah, that guy, that's Lucas's father. As for why he's locked up, well, that's gonna have to say for a long time down the road. As soon as I get off my ass and actually write the book. But yeah, that's his father. He did fight in the war against the Protectorate. The details, I'm going to keep that a close personal secret. But for now you know one half of the genome that made up his DNA. And so you're probably wondering if this is his father, then what's his mother like? Well, you may meet her sometime in the future. I won't say when, but you're going to meet her. But yeah, that is it. That is the end of New World. First in my series of books that I hope to hammer out. But before we go, there's some things I wanted to show you that good that you're looking forward to it. And in case, and I will get to this part. Now, whoops. I actually went ahead too much. I'm going to actually show you, if you got the those of you in the crowd and in the VOD, if those of you who got the second edition of the book, you have some extras involved with it, and I'm going to show you some of those extras in case you didn't see them. And I kind of spoiled it with this one, as we'll show off. In those extras in the back of the book are character portraits of how my characters look. Yeah, your copy definitely has those pictures in it. So, of course, what you see right now, of course, is Castle Dracula, commissioned by an artist I found on Fiverr. It took me a couple of artists to go through before I was able to find one who would actually give me what I want. And if I already mentioned already, the castle itself is based around Castle Dracula, or Castlevania, from the Castlevania series, more specifically the version from Aria of Sorrow, my absolute favorite Castlevania book. And now I believe it's time for us to get on with showcasing everyone. All right, first and foremost, here we have our dear friend Lucas Kane. Like I said, a lot of my inspiration for this book came from the War Machine series, and one of them was a character by the name of Alistair Kane. See that? He was a guy who wore a trench coat and had a pair of magical revolvers. So there's that. I just decided to keep the name Kane. I wasn't keen on Alistair. I don't think I want to really use that name. I just decided on Lucas. And I know how it's spelled in the book. That's just how I prefer to spell it. And most people would say Lucius or Luscious or something like that. But no, that's Lucas Kane. I went with the silver hair because I kind of wanted a character with silvery hair. And fun fact, I don't know if you noticed this. It's in the book. Anytime Lucas is thinking or pondering something or considering something, he always runs his hands through his hair. And if you didn't notice in the last part, when I introduced his father, he ran his hands through his hair. And of course, he gets the hair color from his dad. So they both have. So if you're wondering what his father looks like, you kind of can see it here. Although he does favor his mother at about the face, but you'd have to really look at his mother. So Yeah, Lucas Kane. Pretty cool. We have our girl from the past, Dawn Jackson. If we haven't mentioned already, Dawn is my absolute favorite traveling companion and character from the Pokemon series. Diamond and Pearl, favorite Pokemon anime ever, and Dawn was a fantastic character, and she helped renew my interest. Writing Pearl shipping fics renewed my interest in writing and helped improve my skills as a writer, because before this, if you looked at some of my earlier fanfics, they were not very good. Like, I was not very good, but I keep them around to remind myself of where I was. And I just started writing Pearl shipping fanfics just as something to do, and then it just got me back into writing again. That was like 15 years ago, and I swore to myself, if I ever wrote a book, I would definitely have one who is based off Dawn. So of course, the blue hair, the eyes, the personality, all of it is pretty much Dawn in word only. Jackson was just a name that I picked out of into the elves. I just wrote her name like Reese Fo with the double S